Hello, fellas. Got LTR with us.
What's up, dude?
Not much. How are you? Did you like the intro song?
Yeah, I did like the intro. I mean, I did play 3 times, but like felt like I was midday, you know, hit this
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah, I'm sorry that if I let you down with one of the easiest, most obvious tracks to play, but for a Deftones lover, but
All right.
you just give me a generalist size set of Henry Slammer Deftones tune on the start and make our guest a happy boy. Well, it's good to have you here, man. LTR, if you guys out there have no idea who he is Delphi researcher, college extraordinaire, young genius. I think that probably about friend of blockmates. Is that a good intro? I think.
Yeah,
It's
dude.
a
It's fine.
sideline booking agent as well.
Yeah, Telegram sticker aficionado. Like
Yeah,
there's a lot of titles we could go with.
yeah. I mean, there was a lot of titles we could have gone with this stream as well. Should LTR be euthanized, so on and so forth.
Good one. Skip one.
Good one, but we've come into this with very little plan. As we sign on to this, we never really talk about market stuff on this pod. Well, we don't anymore. We've moved away from God in that aspect, but we have got Bitcoin at 96,340, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Yeah, equity's taking a shit too, so might be good. Might be good. Maybe we're just finally getting some Bitcoin's doing what it's supposed to instead of just being equity beta. But we'll see.
Yep. What a week it's been, by the way. It's Wednesday, and I feel like my brain is more fried than usual by Saturday. What have you made of
I
it?
need it for Christmas. I need Christmas again. I need time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. It's
Yeah.
been I don't know. It's been quite interesting. Like I feel like there's just fucking headlines every day.
Mm.
Like it feels like the Venezuela stuff was literally like 2 months ago, and it was not.
Yeah.
So stuff's just moving so fast. I think we had like all the cloud stuff come out, Cloud Cowork, Cloud Code got really big. Now like Codex, Open Code, that's all like progressing really. I saw someone say that Cloud Code right now feels kind of like the first ChatGPT moment, because I think it's really like pushing forward vibe coding. Like I know professional devs at like very high end tech companies that are actively using cloud code for their companies and stuff like that. So I think it's one of the first instances of vibe coding actually being like very applicable to the top tier devs. So that's like really interesting. But like if you're a normie, cloud kind of different for you, quite honestly. You're mostly on the chat interface and what. Now you're not making use of all the commands and sub agents. So I think a lot of like the more general public probably feels like, not much is happening. So
Yeah, the when they dropped core work this week, I seen like there was just like a throwaway reply where someone had said, "How much did you use Claude to actually generate core work?" And they said 100% of it. So we're now getting to the point where they're pushing out products, which has seemingly killed half of fucking Silicon Valley. So core work, effectively, what I said the day before, is kind of like what you'd use Claude Code for, but for non-technical tasks. So as like really, really good agentic cross function across the whole EV desktop effectively. But yeah, just that throwaway comment that it built like 100% of it is fucking nuts, really.
yeah, I do think people need to be careful though. Like there was that recent cursor bug where it was pulling like repos that were owned by like DPRK or something, and so it's basically like a big Trojan horse because like if you give it full read write access with no like stopping and like saying should I do this, should I not do this, and you're not actually looking into it, like there's still like so much security risk. So like the cloud guys obviously like they're not just pushing this code willy nilly. Like yes, cloud code might be generating all of it, but I assure you they probably have like a pretty massive security team that's auditing everything like pretty closely and they're testing everything. Whereas Joe Schmo who made some like tax filing thing or whatever and pushes it as an app, like you got to be careful with that stuff. I think we're going to see some pretty big fallout there. We've already seen like a bunch of crypto people get drained via various Trojan horses with that type of stuff. And so my advice would be like, if you do have a laptop, you should just do your coding on an entirely different computer, laptop, whatever. Like
Yeah.
I have like a ThinkPad Lenovo. I do all my crypto and like stuff right now on like my Mac. And then I'll just have like a Lenovo that's like just a brick that I do all the coding on. It's like, I don't want to even have the chance of like any systemic risk there.
I mean that was funny you said. That was literally the first question that we had like a call. Yeah, yesterday morning. Honestly, the way this week's been, I can't even keep track of when the news is broken. When it's been just as you say, it's weird for us because we log into this every day, whereas for normies, like this bubble just doesn't exist. But Crix, one of our team, one of the things he said is, how do we feel about just deploying this onto our machines with like hot wallets and all the kind of security risks that you just laid out, LTR? And yeah, for me, I'm still kind of, this is
Alex only moved over from fucking MetaMask to Rabby like 6 months ago. So
last week. Yeah,
that's crazy. I still know people on MetaMask, bro. Literally Japanese soldiers. Like, I really don't get that, but no, it's interesting because like there's also been some findings where people can basically steal your API keys because in like the code source of the website, it just like shows your API keys. So then like people can just basically free ride off of your plans and stuff. So if you do need free API keys, I mean, you can just go hunting around some vibe coded websites, probably some API keys. Like if you don't want to pay for stuff, I'm not like saying you should do that or shouldn't do that, but it's there, if you need it. But
you see that guy who like posted it was like really, really you could tell it was his first time of posting that he'd kind of like vibe coded up, but I think he got stuck with like this 50k bill that everyone's just like rinsing his API.
Yeah, like that's the other thing, right? Is like you can vibe code something, but that doesn't mean like at scale it works well, both from cost and then like from server load and whatnot. Like Google, how many servers does fucking Google have across the world? Like, and how much spend capex is that? Like, just to be able to host what they host. And so, yeah, if you're launching something like vibe coded, you need to make sure you have limits on like both users or like your super base and what data you're storing and whatnot. Because like eventually maybe you'll either get hit with a massive bill if it's like hosted somewhere else, but if it's hosted locally, like you're gonna blow up your computer.
Yeah. So on that then, how do we feel about there's two things here. There is the Nikita stuff, the timeline being completely nuked, Twitter accounts being strangled, all that kind of thing. And then coupled with the fact that all everyone seems to be talking about right now is not actually crypto stuff. It's everything we just spent the last 10 minutes coming out of the gates on. Is this a bit of a change for the industry in terms of where we're going? And this is like a theory that we've been having kind of internally and just chatting about as like the tech all blending into one, really, and one thing not quite becoming another, and like CT's bubble being absorbed by the wider tech bubble and everything that comes with that. There's a few questions baked into that, but it's been wild, I think, watching even Frank, the videos he's been putting out, like these kind of NFT, typically crypto younger people, all everyone's talking about right now is what I've just said.
It's just like greener pastures, I think, because a lot of these same people were in sneakers before crypto, right? They like were doing sneaker botting, they were making sneaker content, they were, then they moved to Top Shot, and then that was like the greener pasture, and then they moved to NFTs, and that was like the greener pasture, and then meme coins were the greener pasture. And so I think it's also like, if you are naturally like entrepreneurial, like maybe someone like Frank is, you're gonna like be like, man, crypto CT right now is not really growing. It's kind of bubbly. It's just like I don't think it has much signal anymore. And so, what's the highest leverage thing I can do? Probably make like AI content or ship SaaS from like your vibe coding or try and learn in public per se. So I think that's kind of why we're seeing that. But I also think it's connected, right? Like, on-chain has been popping off lately with a lot of like cloud coded meme coin projects and like devs, leveraging this stuff. So I think like as like X402, pay per use, all this stuff, like I think it all kind of goes hand in hand, especially with like agentic stuff. I mean, it's way easier to monetize and it's much faster to monetize via crypto than trying to get all these licenses and stuff. I mean, now you can just integrate Privy, integrate Stripe, like boom, accept crypto payments, accept ACH, like you're pretty much good. And so like I think we're just going to see more convergence. Like I feel like tech is just tech now. Pretty much across the border. Like, I mean, you have like TBPN and they cover everything from like, new nuclear reactors and nuclear fission to new AI and crypto stuff. And I think that's just like what we're seeing is because it's all kind of converging. Whereas like, I think in the past, it was much more like siphoned in verticals. Like you had your coders and you had your marketers and, you had your this and that and you had your finance bros and it was all kind of separate. But I think especially with Twitter, with media now, it's kind of like the big thing is the big thing. and everyone kind of gravitates towards it, right? Like everyone has to be good at AI now. Like you have to know how to use AI now, and that's true across pretty much any discipline. And so it's almost like a common thread too. Like, yes, it scary that like maybe it can replace jobs, sure, but it also gives you like common ground between everybody, regardless of whether you're a dev or like an Excel bro in finance. Like you're using AI, and you can talk about latest models or like how your workflows are and stuff. And I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and to me, it feels like I've used the term bubble being popped a couple of times already, but this whole thing that we've seen with Nikita and X and Twitter, whatever you want to call it now, and the algorithm being nuked, it feels like it was forced upon crypto now, and it's like the worst kept secret that we've all been aware of, that no one actually cares outside this echo chamber, and I don't mean that as literal as it sounds, but how many times do we talk about product market fit? This team hasn't found it. That team hasn't found it. These products aren't being used. There's no users, full stop, to use the products that exist. And it kind of feels like what we've not been admitting to ourselves for the longest time. Twitter have gone, no one wants to hear about that shit anymore, so we're just going to completely shut it down.
Yeah.
Rightly or wrongly.
The only thing I would say as well, though, is like, if you think there's a large amount of vapor in this industry, which there is, if we kind of like silo that into crypto for a second, just go and have a little look on Product Hunt and see the complete utter dross that gets posted on there every single day, with basically companies that get wiped out overnight by stuff like co-work getting pushed or getting absorbed, or just like basically playing the Product Hunt game of buying a lot of upvotes and trying to get on the trending page to actually figure out that's how you get meaningful traction around a product. Like, it's the same shit. It's probably some of the same developers from yesteryear who were doing it as well. Where it gets way more attention than anything else is when you slap a token on top of it, because then there's this weird, like, hyper speculative, borderline church-like community that's distributed across the globe that have all got a vested interest in it doing well. And if it doesn't do well, which not a lot of things have done over the past 18 months to 2 years, it's like, that's why you get net negative press across the board, even from people who are supposed to be champions of the industry. So it's all the same shit. Like, it's happening in other verticals as well. It's just like the tokenization aspect, which you could argue isn't even tokenization. It's fucking food coupon isolation.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I mean, like
that adds weight to it.
A token's always going to be like the fastest form of distribution, right? Like you can get in front of people instantly if you attach a token to something.
Yeah,
but like they aren't
for better or
truly,
worse.
yeah, but they aren't truly interested constituents, right? Like they're not
Yeah.
there because they saw your product, they thought it was cool, et cetera, et cetera. They're greater fools, right? They're greater fool investing is pretty much it. Like, will other people, think this is cooler than I do? Or will other people be fooled into thinking this is cooler than I do? And like, I think it just creates a generalization so that anything now that like does launch a token, and usually things also launch tokens prematurely, right? Like, and like we're seeing more and more companies stay private now on the equity side, and less companies IPO until way later. And it's kind of like the reverse in crypto. Like it's kind of like, oh, you have an idea, make a token now, and then build the idea out. And it's like, companies themselves are always going to follow like a J curve. They're going to have to build for a while. It's probably going to be shitty. Like, you might have an initial spike, but eventually you're going to hit a lull. And if you already have some form of like something attached to your company live and tradable and financialized, then you're kind of cocked, because it's like when you do hit that lull, and maybe you can't buy back your token anymore, or maybe you have to like lock in and you can't like tweet every day all day, then everyone will be like, oh, where's he at, et cetera, et cetera. And while like a lot of them are rugs and they do take advantage, right? But I think it just creates like a incentive misalignment that I think it's just too early for most companies and teams. Like, can tokens be a good, proxy for equity if you don't want to, IPO or go that route? Yes, but like I think it has to be done tastefully and at the right time. Because if you are like a brand new startup and you basically IPO at some high val from the get-go, and then you also want to be valued as an equity or on like equity or normal financial terms, you're going to be overvalued. Like if, a lot of these like more traditional finance investors that are coming into crypto and like they'll look at like blue chip DeFi because like these things have, you know, real revenue or real traction or stuff like that. And their tokens are still overvalued on most ratios, from like an MCAP and FDD perspective. So it's like even the best of the best stuff, from like a business perspective, is still overvalued if you try and do it normally. And so it's going to be interesting. So it's like, does everything start becoming more normal finance where it's valued on those kind of pure terms? I don't think so, just because, you know, equity markets aren't like that. Like Tesla and whatever is more of like a attention proxy on Elon as far as like ratios and whatnot. And so I think you're going to be a split, right? Like some things are going to be very blue chip Costco stocks that are like valued pretty purely on their business, their dividends, whatnot. And then you're also going to have your more attention speculative Elon type stocks that are like stock tokens that are like, oh yeah, you know, this is going to be huge, or this is.
I was speaking to a guy from a team like on Monday, I think it was, which is because it I completely agree with what you're saying, but the problem is I don't see a way out of it. And it's such a double-edged sword because you need the token for the attention, for the mind share to go to market. But then once that's done, like how many people do you hear, I don't want to go to a pre-TGE project? Because then what usually happens after, it's an inevitability that there'll be a washout. And what this guy was saying to me was, if you like from a business point of view, the product is doing really, really well, volume, users, everything up and to the right, like, but the token is drastically, I suppose, like on paper viewed as underperforming, and therefore people view that as the project being a load of shit, or the team or the business. It feels weird to even call it a project. Like that's kind of shitty in itself. It's a business that is operational, that has revenue, that has users using it. And yet he said to me they have to have like conversations internally where they view their marketing as essentially two separate businesses. Like, how do we market the token and how do we market the product?
Yeah.
And it's that's so unbelievably fucked. It's fine for a bootstrapping mechanism or whatever you want to use it, or whether we're talking about like campaigns to draw attention to something, you know, because I think what people get wrong in crypto is they think that this method isn't used elsewhere in tech. Like it definitely is. It's just not as financially incentivized. Like think about how Uber found product market fit, right? Like you give people free rides until they're like, this is really convenient. I'm going to just do this and use it forever. And then it's ingrained behavior. And we've obviously applied that over the years to crypto and getting users. You, in an ideal world, you would have a system where people will farm something, but then they become sticky because they want to use, and then they will stay because it's good and it becomes part of something that they enjoy. Now we have completely left that behind, I think. And I think that we're arguing over whether it's still relevant is because we don't really know a way to fix it. It's, you know, it's like if aliens came to Earth, you can't really do anything about it. It's happening whether you like it or not. And that's why it will just never not be a discussion point, I think.
Yeah. I think like the point you touched on is like consumer acquisition cost, right? And so like PayPal, for example, you know, they burn 60 to 70 million, given like $10 to sign up for PayPal and use it. And they could do that because they had like, you know, so much VC money, right? And so they didn't have to, I don't know, do a stock offering or sell equity or anything like that, or debt finance, whatever. But crypto coins and tokens are very good for CAC because it's basically like you can launch a token at $1 billion and just start paying users to join, and it's not really a big cost to you as a company. And you know, basically the marginal user then bears the inflation and bears like the price downside. And you can see this with like WorldCoin, for example, like World Metrics, World App, World Scans, World Chain is like up and to the right in most metrics. And their token basically stays at a similar market cap while the price plummets. And that's because the inflation is being offset by new users. But like nobody really buys World because they kind of understand that it's like a CAC token. Like World is basically just used to onboard more people to the World app to get more irises scanned, et cetera. And that's fine. But that also means like, you know, the token is never going to be an equity tracker or a faux equity or anything like that. And that's okay. I think you just have to espouse that from the start. Like, yeah, we are using this token as like a distribution mechanism. It's not going to be this end all be all. You buy it. If the company does well, it goes up as well. So I think like, I think many companies have tried to do both in a sense. And it's like, that's where you get into like, you have to market the token. Like what company on the NASDAQ has to market their stock? Like that just makes no sense. Like they just keep grinding at the business, keep making the business better, and like naturally, eventually, it should follow. And I think that's another thing is like also, we're on such low time horizons, man. Like, I mean, like, how long has Google been a public stock? How long has Amazon been a public stock? Obviously, they're, magnitudes bigger. They've been going up for far longer. But like, yeah, even Bitcoin had like, long periods where it was basically just crabbing at very low valuations. And so I think a lot of times teams are just kind of like, ooh, our token's just chilling. Our business is getting better. What can we do? What can we do? And then they'll just like spend a ton of money doing buybacks or trying to market their token. It's like, that just doesn't really do anything. You'd be better off just making the delta between your business being good and your token being okay, bigger and bigger to eventually where people can't ignore the token anymore. And that's not to say there's like I don't believe in like the build and they'll come necessarily anymore. But I think especially with these bigger things that have very good businesses, it's like you're better off just making your business as good as possible to the point where it's like, oh shit, we have to find a proxy for this. Like we have to find some sort of liquid proxy for this. And guess what? Boom, you have a token. Like people will naturally buy it. And so like you almost need to like enter the evoked set of minds. Like, oh, this company's doing very well. I could buy this to get exposure. And we already see that with like trends in equities too. Like, buying pure uranium is very hard. But you can buy uranium miners or you can buy et cetera, et cetera. So if like you think nuclear fusion is going to be, the power of tomorrow, it'd be very hard for you to self-custody uranium. You lead lead and whatnot. You can't really buy it very easily on like any market or commodity index. And so people will buy the best miners or they'll buy the best energy companies or they'll buy the best, like, I don't know, fusion maker companies or like manufacturers. And like, are those pure uranium? No, but like they're going to be the highest beta. And so if your token is the highest beta for your business already, and you don't have something else necessarily, like you don't have both you don't have both an equity live and then a token, I think it'll naturally follow. Like I do, especially like if it's too hard to ignore. But it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I think even like I spoke to a few teams this week on the idea of like tokenized equity, either coming to market with a fresh token that does inherently have investor protections and tying back to the underlying equity, or like kind of like a retrofitting. And some of the feedback they had was, it sounds great to go to teams that are already existing in the ether, relatively stable, and say, look, if you thought about like the remainder supply of your token that's going to be getting distributed anyway, have you ever thought about like what that looks like as being directly tied to equity?
Yeah, I don't.
If we're being completely honest, some teams don't necessarily care because they've already gotten way too fucking rich to give a shit. So that's also a dynamic that also plays out when you immediately list tokens, particularly from a previous vintage of 21 and before. I think there was a lot of that, like huge wealth effect that's been created. So like, where's the incentive for them to actually go and offer that to people who are sat holding these food coupons, as I'm going to continue to call them?
Yeah, exactly. Like they can get rich before their company is as big as, they should be to get that rich, right? Like, some of these crypto people are some of the richest people in the world and their token is like 5 bill val. Whereas like, they're basically as rich as a company founder who's, publicly traded stock is like 500 bill. And you're like, this makes no sense. How are you this rich? When you're, you didn't even have any revenue. It's just because you could keep selling every day, a mil worth of tokens. Let's go. New unlock, new airdrop.
I mean, I know I feel like this whole topic of the raise is the product just keep coming back around to the point that I'm almost getting a little bit bored of it. But how do we ever move on from it if it never changes?
You don't launch token.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think teams are going to find out quite quickly. Like, I think we're already converging. Like, tokenized stocks are becoming bigger. So it's like, if you can just buy NVIDIA on chain without friction pretty easily, like, dude, I'd rather fucking hold that than any like dog shit inflation token. Like, is it already 5 trill or whatever? Yeah, but like, I'd still rather hold it. Like, I'm pretty sure Jensen Huang doesn't want to just like go chill in a mansion somewhere and not like be on the top of this, market anymore. Like, seems pretty hungry. That they got a lot of employees to pay. They got to win this race. So,
How much is the leather jacket that the guy from Aptos wears, Grant?
Or I think it's like 70K.
yeah.
Fucking honestly. But I mean, as we kind of riff on this, just before we jumped on, the algorithm changes have of course been one of the things that people have mainly been talking about this week, and as I've already said, but whether you look, whichever way you look at it or not, like it's real. What's happening? Like, we posted a video earlier that Nev did. It's currently sitting on like 5.2k views. That's like completely unheard of, really, especially for something like that. And what it says to me is that people are, which I think is a really ugly sign, people are becoming like more and more desperate to try and get on the timeline. And I'm not so sure that it's a very good look, because it feels like this. I'm hoping that we're getting slowly but surely towards the end of the attention at all costs culture that we've built on the internet over the past 5 years. But the Solana tweet that literally went out like at the top, like an hour ago, like maybe an hour and a half ago. Henry, can you bring up my screen?
Yeah, no, but this is the economy we're in.
Yeah, so this is the attention economy that we're in. I'm going to wait until this pops up. So the tweet is, if you're listening after the fact on Spotify, Starknet has 8 daily active users, 10 daily transactions, and still somehow has a 1 billion market cap and 15 billion FTV. LMFAO, send it straight to zero. Right. So I suspect there's some dark arts going on in the background there, and there is maybe some collusion.
Yeah.
I would expect that's the case. We sort of saw it before, didn't we, with what Coinbase did when Alex joined there, and they kind of created the whole thing around up only and give me the account for like an hour and I'll tweet whatever I want. But is that a good look? Like, what do you think when you see an account like that? And if it's not fuckery, which I'm pretty sure it is, it's social engagement tactics. Is that where we've got? Yeah. It just kind of, you have to create these extremes in order for anything to be interesting.
Me personally, I think it's fucking cringe. It reminds me of like Trump tweeting as a president, like the most unprofessional tweet ever. Like you're the leader of the biggest nation in the world, and you're tweeting like a 12-year-old. Like, we should have some form of like decorum. You should wear suits. Like, I mean, like, that's my personal opinion, but I think the sad reality is, like, this isn't just crypto. I mean, like, Duolingo went famous for their social media shenanigans and like doing all this weird to get attention and whatnot. And so I think people are viewing social medias of companies as less like a window into that company or some form of official voice of that company, and more like the top end of the funnel for the company, which is true, and it can be very good. But like, me personally, like, I think it can get a little cringy when done untastefully with stuff like this. Solana's like trying to become, the NASDAQ on chain, and they're tweeting stuff like this. It's like why, but it's also, but like, if you are their team, what's going to get the most attention, like bad and good, right? Like, what is going to get the most engagement and whatnot? Like, look how big that tweet already was, like, as far as engagements. Like, if they had just posted something, I don't even know what it's about, but like, let's say they're partnering with, Starknet to do like some BTC stuff with Solana, which is like what Starknet's doing. If they had just posted that as like a normal partnership, like, dude, it would have gotten like no traction. Like, and it's not because it's bad or a bad partnership necessarily. It's just like, people just see it and it's like, they don't want to interact with it, right? Like, they see it, they're like, oh, that's cool, but they're not going to like, they're not going to retweet, they're not going to quote tweet, they're not going to reply. And so social media now is about like, what's going to get the most interactions rather than just like pure reactions, because you can't quantify reactions. Like, I guess you can in views, but then your conversions just look dog shit, 'cause your tweet will have like 500k views and it's like 100 likes, and you're like, okay, where are these people? They just like looked at it and scrolled on. Like, I don't really see that ending anytime soon, just because it's just the end form, right? Like, you're gonna have to optimize, you're gonna find the straightest road, the easiest path, and that's what this is.
Yep. Grant?
I think the only way, like we talk about like equal and opposite reactions all the time, and there's always great businesses. Really, really easy to spot trends if you look at a lot of stuff for like these equal and opposite reactions. Like, talk about vegan movement, met by carnivore movement. Like that's a very, very, very basic example. Um, with attention at all costs, like, and I've mentioned the kind of like rain bet, like Zoomer style kids doing like a skit that is like pushing the boundaries of like legality at times, and then at the end of like the last 10 seconds of like a minute long skit on Instagram, it'll be them pulling up rain bet and
Yeah.
open the roulette or cards or something like that. So it's like a view is a view is a view is a view, and if you totally incentivizing engagement at that level, then it really starts to go like quite dystopian and Black Mirror-ish when you're trying to optimize for that, given the state of which the algorithm's in now, and particularly how like extreme everything is globally. Like there's a shitload of stuff going on. Like there's a lot of geopolitical tension everywhere, so you also have to contend with that. So if you're to go viral on the backdrop of everything that's happening day in day out, of what everything else that's happening like globally, it has to be pretty extreme to actually cut through and like start to go like these dark message sends where it's going from one platform to another. It's the reason why if you press share or you go to copy on any of the social media platforms, it's quite an intuitive and quite responsive, and wants you to go to like their competitors. Like it wants to prompt you to share to competitors. So if you open something on Instagram and you want to go to share, it will suggest like going to different platforms, like vice versa on Twitter and stuff like that, because they want people going from there to over to here and stuff like that. But those type of tweets like that from Solana, I'm not saying it's good or it's bad, but it satisfies the end goal of engagement at all costs. Not that I agree with it or against it really, but that's typically what it takes at this point now to get eyeballs.
I would
I'm
say though,
already aware of you.
I would say that's a pendulum though, right? Like it's always a barbell. We do have that kind of stuff blowing up, but guess what else is blowing up? Like cloud code, like tutorials on Twitter have been like going absolutely berserk, and they're actually like teaching people how to make things. And so I do think it's also just that human nature where you are gonna like look at the negative blowing up and you're like, oh my gosh. Like, but like I mean, live leak videos were viral on Reddit like 10 years ago of people just getting absolutely murdered and like cartel executions and stuff. So I think it's kind of human nature. I mean, like people literally gathered in town squares to watch executions, right? Like the whole city would gather in a town square to watch an execution in Asian France with the guillotine. Um, and there were famous. There was even famous like there was a famous group of women that would knit in the front row, and like of the guillotines, and they would like watch the heads get chopped off. So like I think it's also just human nature, and there will always be like the barbell of I mean like some ads blowing up, sure, but then some other good stuff or funny stuff is getting just as much engagement. It's just that we will remember like that was a really weird tweet to go viral, and you'll remember that more than like Ryan Carson's 10-page thread on how to use Ralph that blew up. It's like, oh, that was useful, and that was useful and good. I'm gonna move on now. Like maybe I'll pull it back up when I need to use the plugin. But
I think that's an interesting point. That actually gives me some hope, because I saw a thing the other day, and it was like Trump. Funny you say this, it had come out from like the official White House Twitter account, and it was a meme, and it was Trump and Vance walking down some like laneway part of the White House, I'm assuming, and they'd put like a title over it, "Me and Bro Fixing America," and basically this guy had kind of did this video, and he was talking all about there's a book called Amusing Ourselves to Death. I've read like bits of it, and essentially it's like it makes the argument that we've now created a where serious things become unserious because it's anything for the engagement. And I think that where I'm probably going to take this next is I just think that's like net negative and like bearish humanity, if I'm honest. I don't think that's a good thing. I think that you see the downstream effects on people's general intellect, intelligence. Like there was a piece that, not that I'm, Noam Chomsky or something, that's the first name that can come in my head. But there was a piece that I recently, it was called, what did you say?
Chomsky was in the Epstein pictures, bro. You should pick someone else.
Yeah, fuck, I need to pick someone else. Shit, he was. I don't know, someone smarter than fucking that.
Did he?
Cut that out, Henry. Jesus.
Oh wait, fuck.
Not that I'm P Diddy or anything.
Doesn't mean that he wasn't smart. Basically, there was a piece recently, and it was like the dawn of the post-literate society, and it's like this long thing about how people. Did you read it? Did you see that?
I have like I haven't read it.
But you've seen it, and
Mhm.
essentially the argument is that culture has got to a place now where we just like literally and figuratively like shrunk people's brains to the point that they can't like take on more information than what is expected of them, that isn't just like screens and phones and dopamine hits and short form video content has all contributed to this. And I'd sent it to my mate the other day and I was like, well, what do you think of this? And like the opening line is like, what Orwell feared were those who would ban books. What Huxley feared was that there would be no reason to ban books because no one wanted to read one. That,
Yes.
like, obviously paraphrasing, but that's what I think we're seeing here. And I think that we are seeing it on crypto Twitter as well as a result of our industry. And we're wondering why we're struggling for stickiness with users, because I just think that like this new wave of users that have coming on, or whatever you want to call them, this next cycle, these new people, these younger people, I don't think they have the interest or desire to test out a lot of the products that people were using 5-6 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, I think again, like I'm gonna go back, Chris Payek from Pace. He's got like a good document on pendulum theory, and it's basically like, yes, that's happening, but also if you look at like people are returning to reading more than ever right now. Like Goodreads is blowing up, everyone's getting a Kindle. It's becoming cool to read again, just because it is kind of like a, you know, I don't want
It's
to
not.
be. People don't like
What
being
else
rats
is?
in the race,
Yeah.
right? And so if they feel like they're slaves to the algorithm and they're not on their own accord having fun anymore, which is like kind of what's happening now, like they're recognizing like, oh, big media controls all these algorithms. Like, I don't want to be privy to this. I'm going to go read Count of Monte Cristo. And like, we're seeing a lot of that. Like Dostoevsky is becoming really big again. I don't know if you've seen that. Like, I'm a big Dostoevsky fan because I'm Christian, but like, it's becoming like really cool to read the Brothers Karamazov again. And like stuff like that is just like almost becoming the performative male type. Like people are actually reading and like, it's pretty cool. So I do think like, if there's one thing about humans is like we adapt pretty well. We respond to problems pretty well. And so like if this is our new problem, then I think people are gonna pretty quickly return to mean. Like we had like really bad health for a bit, like America sugar, whatnot. And now like guess what's really big? 8 sleep, whoop, like maximizing your health, hybrid athletes, high rocks is huge. And so like I think we always just kind of rebound in different ways. Like religion is rising again right now. Like there's a lot of like countercultural trends that will
Yeah.
probably become main trends. And then guess what? 4chan will get big again. And then it's going to be another counterculture.
Yeah.
And like, so like history doesn't repeat, but human nature does. And like, I'm not as worried about it as other people, I think, because I think it ultimately comes down to like the people who were already going to do something great will still do something great. And I think they have more tools to do something great more than ever. I mean, like it is truly so easy to be great nowadays. Like the bar is very low. If you can just become very good and like lock in on a certain skill, you'll do very, very well. And so like, I'm already seeing a bunch of people like recognize that, like, yeah, I can just basically delete, go get like an analog phone and just really work on my business. And guess what? I'll get 10x farther way easier than I could have back in the day. So I don't know. I think like, everything's just becoming more power law, more Pareto, middle class being erased, whatever. And it, the classic argument is whether does that power law view take us farther than ever? And in the past it has. People like, Elon, Google, Amazon, all these companies that are huge, and, Novo Nordisk is making all these GLPs and like, so there is the argument to be made that even if things are more power lawed, it could also lead to an even better future than we think, just because there's less normal, if that makes sense. But like that's hard for a lot of people to swallow too, because it means there's going to be a lot more shit per se. But if that means that there's going to be way more great stuff, like if we crack, nuclear fission and we can make hydrogen into energy pretty cleanly, like that's freaking massive. And so I don't know. I'm a techno optimist just because I think it's the only stance to have. I mean, you only have one life, and so it's like a Pascal's wager. As far as like, I wrote an article. It was my first article on Twitter, and it was basically like, why being an optimist is just better. And it's not necessarily because the pessimists are naturally wrong. We could still sort of fall out, and like AI could take over the world, whatever. But me being an optimist is in the same place as you being a pessimist. Like if the pessimist is right, we do get nuclear fallout. AI does kill the world. Like I'm still in the same place as you. I guess you were right about being a pessimist, but guess what I spent my time doing instead of being in a bunker, right? Like there were people during the Cold War with Russia that literally built nuclear bunkers and didn't get shit done because they were just scared. They were hiding in their bunkers. they thought the world would end, and it's like, cool, you know, I think I'd rather be killed by the nuke at that point than like live in a Fallout 76 type of thing. But you know,
I agree. I think it's quite bullish for anything in person as well. I think there's going to be so much craving for that kind of
yes,
when you're completely saturated by. I don't know which one of my followers is fucking AI or which one of my followers is like someone I've met in real life before. Like,
yeah, and people are already getting
into that.
tired, right? Like people are getting tired of Kaido. People are getting tired of the AI bots. So now they're like, now people are basically like IRL maxing. They're reading. They're going out. They're not doing as much tech stuff. And I think like your body and your brain, yes, it can get addicted to stuff, but like it's pretty good at noticing like you eat something bad, you drink too much, your body's gonna tell you, right? Like you're gonna feel like shit. Oh, maybe I shouldn't drink again. Like I think your brain's pretty similar. Like eventually, if you're just like you're like, oh, I can't focus on anything. This is really weird. Like I can't really pay attention for more than 30 seconds. This is kind of fucked. How do I fix this? So I'm seeing like people now, they'll basically like do this raw dog challenge. Well, they'll just sit for like 3 hours and have nothing, like no book, no nothing. And they'll just see if they can just like raw dog for 5 hours to try and like bring up their attention span again, because they've noticed like whether in class or whether watching a movie, they just can't like sit and chill anymore. So I don't know. I think like you got to listen to your mind and body in a certain aspect. Is like if you recognize like, man, I can't even watch a movie without checking my phone anymore, or I can't even like pay attention to something without reaching for something. I think like you're giving yourself signals that you maybe need to, you know, do something else.
Correct. I've got a theory that's why Netflix is trying to push one level everything to be captioned, and two to have foreign movies on like English in on English speaking Netflix, where it forces you to have that extra level of concentration. So you do have to dial in. You can't actually understand the plot by going on your phone. I think that's why you've probably seen a rise in, I don't know, Jung Ho's like Parasite and basically anything that requires that extra level of detail when you're actually trying to lock into a movie. Because I'll admit I'm like the world's worst for it. If I'm not at the cinema, or if I'm not like actively reading the captions around a movie or a series, I will end up scrolling. And I know it's terrible because I'm really enjoying it, but I just can't help myself. I really just can't help myself.
But so this is the thing for me. It's I went to see My Supreme last Monday, and I'd said to myself, this is the last time I'm going to the movies if this is a bad experience, because the last, and that sounds like so like loserish, like, because who gives a shit apart from me?
You go to the movies by yourself, so you can't say that.
I did. I do. I intentionally. I went to see one battle after another, 2:00 in the afternoon, weeks after it had been out, on my own, because I was like, there's not going to be anyone else in there. Because the last that I'd been, I went to see Dune twice. Because the first time I went in there, some guy was like sitting next to me, fucking scrolling on his phone right throughout it. Couldn't resist it. And then I was like, I cannot miss that. I'm going to watch it again to give it a second shot. And I think that's like a pretty, and I hear what you're saying, LTR. I like that view that you need, like it's better to take an optimistic view. But I don't think we can get away from the fact that this like get to the point culture that we've created has been like net negative.
Oh yeah, I mean like it's definitely been net negative
and everything. Yeah.
But like I still think humanity is on an upward trajectory. Like I'd rather take this attention thing than fucking living in the medieval times or like basically any other point in human history. So like what's funny is people are always like, you know, current times are really bad. You know, shit's going on. But like then I look at my grandpa and he fought in Vietnam when he was 20. Like shit, I don't want to be in Vietnam right now. Like, you know, if my major problem is being a slave to TikTok versus like fellas in the jungle, like I think I'm gonna take being a slave to TikTok, honestly, if that's gonna be my cross to bear. And so like
you might find yourself in Greenland though.
Yeah, but exactly though, right? Like I think every single generation has been like growing up, they'd be like, oh, I had it so bad. And then when you get older, you're like, oh, the new generation has it so easy. And so like I think you also need to, you know, think from a like bird's eye view on yourself and people and be like, yeah, like this specific part of our generation is definitely net negative, but there are so many other net positives, both in like medicine, you know, access to stuff, you know, even like the good parts of technology. And so I think a lot of people don't think in like expected value of like society as a whole in like everything. They'll just take one part of it, like social media or algorithms, and be like, this means that, you know, our generation is so fucked. And then they'll just ignore or like every other good thing that's also been brought out with this generation. Like, our generation cares
Like,
more about like the environment or like stuff like that. Or like
Yeah.
they don't really smoke cigarettes as much, and they're not drinking alcohol as much, and like, so it's interesting.
yeah, like people like when we're speaking about AI like taking over the world and just replacing everyone for everyone's jobs and stuff like that. It's like all well and good, and then what's starting to rear its head a little bit now is its influence on biotech and stuff like that. Where the issue with where we've always tried to be moving towards with biotech, like that was like my past life. We've previously treated everyone with like a one size fits all drug, depending on what it actually is. If you look at cancer, each individual cancer is completely different. If it's breast cancer, testicular cancer, insert any cancer there. And then when you drill down into it, every subtype of that cancer is completely different. Um, Previously, like chemotherapy and radiotherapies have been a one size fits all. AI drastically accelerates like protein folding analysis and how you can actually physically get to the point of personalized absolutely everyone. Without machine learning, you're never getting there. You're just not. Impossible.
Yeah,
Completely impossible. And
it's
like
also
that
like,
sort of stuff is like just as you say, like if you look at it from an optimistic lens, personalized medicine based on everyone's like phenotype of disease can be solved and is probably in our lifetime, to be honest.
not just medicine though, like education. You can now have your perfect personal tutor one on one. Like, I mean, that
You
that
seen
stuff's
these
all
kids,
done.
these 2 hour learning schools?
Yeah,
Have you
I'm
seen the kids? They're
yeah.
all in the 99th percentile. They're in the top
Yeah,
1%
there's some
across
really good
everything.
externalities that are being covered up that have recently come to light about like
Oh,
they're
that's
all
cool.
crying and miserable and like stuff like that. So I think like you do need the balance. I'm not going to say whether it's bad or good. Like yeah, the test scores are good, but you also need to let kids be kids. But
Yeah, let them eat mud like after the 2 hours.
that shit. I
Stick
might tell
marbles
people
up
I've
the
been
nose.
like electrocuted by an electric fence. I've been 100 times. Like dude, wild kid. But no, I mean like I think we are moving towards I think a good future, honestly, like where you can have not only will it cost less, right? Like you don't have to go into a doctor checkup or whatever and spend buku money, especially in the US, obviously, or wait 5 months in other countries that have it for free. I don't know. I think like a lot of these things are just good. Like people have already like basically found out they have appendicitis by just like asking AI and whatnot, instead of having to,
Yeah.
wait 2 months and it bursts and whatever.
I like
So
I like
yeah,
how they said they were legally not gonna be putting up health and legal advice, and then like the OpenAI I'm talking about here said they're gonna remove any direct health and legal advice from just generalized ChatGPT, whatever model that they're running now,
yeah, and then they
giving
announced
to,
GPT Health.
and it, and then they productized
Yeah, yeah,
it.
yeah. The thing is, right, like maybe I wouldn't trust general models, but I think there are going to be like there's a big law model, I forget the name of it, but like there's it, you know, frick. Um Gil was an investor in it, but there's like a big specific law model that's like $1 billion company. It's basically just law. And like I think that makes sense, right? Like if an LM is just trained
Yeah.
off data sets, and if you just made all the data sets like the best doctor, the best medical research available, and then didn't inject it with, weird Reddit shit or weird pharmaceutical shit or weird peptide Twitter, like, if you just gave it like the most science backed
That's
based,
what.
tested stuff, I think it'd probably be pretty good, and I'd almost trust it more than any, human fallacy doctor. And so, um, I think that's
Yeah.
the thing you have to get around though, is like a lot of people automatically see those things as like less trustworthy, which is quite right because like by definition, it's kind of like how most people would still rather have a human surgeon than a robot surgeon that would even has a better rate of like not messing up just because there's something about the surgeon being, I don't know, tangible, or maybe having some sort of emotion to connect to that even if the robot is 10% better and makes less mistakes, they'll still choose the human. There's like a lot of interesting research around that. And so I do think we're slowly getting over that hump, especially with like we're seeing it now with driving. Like think about Waymo. Like people just get in these driverless. Like I've been in Waymo, dude. They're fucking impressive. Like they're better than normal taxi drivers. Like honestly, I feel safer than like being in a normal taxi because taxi drivers are wild. But like that's one example of like, you know, I think that's going to happen in basically most industries. And then the question is like, okay, but then what are the jobs for humans? And
Yeah.
um, but I'm not too worried about that honestly because I think the jobs get just more creative, and I think we've already seen that with like the internet, right? Like internet replaced so many stuff, but it also made new jobs like content creators, like what we're doing right fucking now. Like, this wasn't possible. We'd be at some desk job or something. But I don't know. I'm excited.
Did you see the study where they had general practitioners or physicians? I don't know how what it's called in America, but basically where you just got to see a GP. You might have, I don't know, tickly throat or something like that. And so they did this study across I can't remember the cohort size of it, but basically like ChatGPT by itself was the highest ranking, like to be able to diagnose what the problem was.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors obviously scored the lowest on it, but doctors with the use of ChatGPT as well didn't score as high as ChatGPT by itself. And like the theory was like, if you've been training for the past however many years and you've gone through and you think you're all knowing around like how you can diagnose your patients, if you get this computer shoved in your face telling you like wrong, you're more inclined to actually go what you believe over what you've been presented. So in the day, fucking up, which is quite weird.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because like I think there is something magical about the human gut, like gut feelings. Like those things, man, like sometimes people just have gut feelings and you're like, what the fuck? Like there's something beyond there. Which like I don't even know how to describe that, but like we've all had it, right? Like these gut feelings that are like super weird and not based in like any facts that we've observed.
Almost telepathic, isn't it? It's so
like it's you know, some people think it's spiritual, some people think it's whatever, but like, you know, I don't think you can get rid of that as a whole, but I do think in certain like with more clear-cut medical stuff, like it's better to have a computer. Like, I mean, like I just think that, you know, like some stuff will require semantics, like maybe you know, looking at image readings or something like that, that's maybe a little more up for debate, even with computers. But like with other stuff, man, like especially my dad was an ER doctor, and you know how many people he would see that would come in with just like a fever or a common cold? They'd go to the emergency room because like they didn't know what else to do. They're freaking out, like, I'm sick, you know, I gotta go to the emergency room. And it's like, bro, you have a fucking common cold. Like, just take some Tylenol.
Yeah.
But like,
it's stage 4 cancer.
yeah, I mean, but like, or just, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we like publicly have a very big issue with that, with, you know, free public healthcare. And
yes,
as you're saying, then I'm not going to go down this debate of like free versus private healthcare. But I do think that so you've got one issue there, haven't you? It's like ER rooms being, you know, by people with a fucking common cold, and it's like, just stay at home. But what the antidote for that is, you are relying on a level of human intellect and intelligence to know that, like, hey, I probably shouldn't go and like get in the way of the guy whose appendix just burst, because I don't know why I've got a tickle in my throat. So that is where I don't know how we get around that, because if people can't even figure that out,
yeah, because people are thick.
What now
on their own, like, how do we expect them to go, hey, this LLM is now trained to the point that it can probably give you like a basic general practitioner diagnosis of what's going on here?
Well, like, you know, having that as my dad growing up, like if I had something like that, I'd literally just go up to him and ask him like, you know, I got this weird tickle in my throat. Like, what should I do? And he's like, probably this. You should take this. Yeah. And like, I think an LLM can do that quite easily. Like, if you told it you had these symptoms, runny nose, whatever, it's like basically it can tell you don't need to go to the ER. Just go to CVS or pharmacy, buy some Tylenol OTC, and then just like walk home, take it, and chill. And like, how much money in like taxpayer money does that like solve for both free and non-free healthcare? How much money does it save you? Like, you know, how much less stress does it put on like physicians and whatnot? And like, I think that's where like it can really help, even at like a basic level. Like, we don't necessarily need to replace doctors or whatever with AI, but if it can just like, you know, get out that Pareto level of like the really basic stuff that doesn't need to be there anyway, and then like lets doctors or whatever focus on like the really bad shit. I think that's a pretty big thing. Like, I think like people Google stuff all the time. The problem with Google is it just shows you like top search results, or at least it used to before AI. And so like they'd search like tickly throat and come up and like, you have, you know, laryngitis cancer, or like whatever. Like, they're crazy. And so like then they freak out and then they go in, and you know, it's the self-diagnosis thing. Whereas like if you do it with Google, it'll show up with Gemini and it'll probably be like, yeah, you probably just have a common cold, bud. Like, go chill. If it gets really bad, you should go in. But
it's interesting. I like this. Again, I haven't read that piece you did on optimism, to be fair. I'm definitely guilty of that. It's like, I sense that this is almost like a Gen Z v Unk, like quite good debate that we're having of like general
You need an LTR bot. It pops up
Yeah,
on you
you
and
need an
tells you to
LTR.
be optimistic.
General, like, I guess, wariness of like the ongoing encroachment of like total automation and tech of everything across society from my side versus your like just quite like you, well, it's completely natural to you in every single way, isn't it? And
Yeah.
and you are absolutely bang on. It pays to have a more positive worldview of absolutely everything because, as you say, even if I'm right and you're wrong, we're all in the same situation at the end of the day. So
Yeah, we're all
it's
fucked. So it's like,
yeah, we're all
but if
fucked.
I'm right and you're wrong, I'm like rich and living the life and like happy, and you're in nuclear bunker, like poor,
Yeah,
chilling. And so that's the thing, right? Is like the EV of being, an optimist will always be greater, just
yeah,
because like, it's basically infinite up. It's like shorting versus longing. Like a token can only go down to
yeah, yeah,
zero.
yeah,
It can go up infinitely, right? And so like you basically always want to try and play the long side. And I think that's true of life as well. And do I think that a lot of stuff is negative? Yeah, but it's like, dude, like it's coming regardless or not. That's how I feel about AI. Like it's gonna keep advancing regardless. And so the best thing I can do personally is just, keep playing around with it, keep being optimistic about it, have fun with cloud code, and like versus like if you are that, boomer that's like, fuck AI, I'm not gonna use it at all. I'm gonna like ignore it. Like, guess what? You're just gonna be left behind.
Protest.
Like
yeah,
you're gonna be left
yeah.
behind so fast and nobody's gonna care about you. And yeah, so I mean, like obviously you're not in that boat. I just mean like in
No, of
general.
course, yeah.
It's-
I am
you
also
see
the
them.
devil's advocate here throughout, obviously,
Of course, yeah.
the nature of the discussion. But I know we've been dwelling on this a lot, but I do want to get your takes on the CoinGecko proposed sale that's been floating around in the past 24 hours. I know that's like a hard left on the conversation, but Grant, what have you thought about that? Which is probably closer to where we were talking at the start of the chat, but what do you
Yeah,
think?
if they're worth 500 million, we're worth 100 million.
I mean, I like
That's
the
my take.
CoinGecko guys, but like when I read that, I was like, holy shit, like they're kind of just like a data front end. Like, I don't know. Like if that was like DeFi Llama or something, I'd be like, yeah,
Yeah,
go. That's worth a lot, I think. But like, I don't know. I think it seems pretty expensive. But like I'm not shitting on CoinGecko. I use them. Like I think they're great. It just seems
yeah,
like a pretty basic thing for that amount of money. But I also think like if you are hiring more for the brand and for the team, like how many people use CoinGecko and that's like their thing. Like it doesn't even matter if there's a better site to check. It's like they'll still go to CoinGecko. There's still so many people that use that over like TradingView or whatnot. And so I think it's almost more for that. And if you're thinking about that like sort of brand or like basically the URL that people go to, then it can be worth that. I think larger, we're just going to see so much more crypto M&A. We already have seen it. Kobe got bought out by Coinbase. This is getting bought. Coinbase.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Coinbase buy it.
Yeah, I mean, like that would be pretty big for them. Like that would be probably a huge funnel. And so I think you're going to see these giants like Robinhood and Coinbase that make a ton of cash. They're going to be like, why wouldn't we just own everything? Kind of like Google does or Amazon does. Like you're going to start seeing this. But it's also good in the sense that, I think if they are good companies and they're more American or maybe not, like you also know that like they're not just going to scam you on a token. you know, could CoinGecko have probably just like made some token and like totally sold out and maybe they'd be on some yacht somewhere? Maybe, but like I kind of respect them for not doing that. And would they have made more? Probably. But if they can, be part of something nice and like I think it's a net positive outcome. But there's just the people that would be like, no, they should have tokenized and then we could have made money, but that never ends well.
Yeah. The Binance, to put some color on that, Binance acquired CoinMarketCap. I can't remember if that was disclosed for that cost, but CoinMarketCap is the number one traffic driving site in the industry. All right. Ranks
Mm-hmm.
first for absolutely everything. If you're probably 2 years ago, and this is like really granular, but Coinbase, it didn't matter what the asset was. Coinbase were in this extremely heavy SEO strategy where you could literally type in a coin that had launched 45 minutes ago and they would have a web page spun up for it. So if you typed it in, it would be extremely aggressive. It wouldn't actually have any context of what that coin was, but it'd be front and center and you'd be owning search domain. Now, if CoinGecko indexes heavily across all LLMs, which I'm assuming it does, it's already directly integrated into Claude.
Exactly.
Someone like a Coinbase, Kraken, they could afford it.
Yeah.
Struggling to think of anyone else who could buy Bybit. Makes sense. Both like teamed roughly out in the East.
Yeah, it's the new SEO, right? Is going to be like these
Yeah.
data pins that are pulled from. And so like if you do think about it from that lens, then it's huge. If you can like if you already look at like if you go deep research crypto, like it mostly pulls like articles from like the Block, CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko. Uh which is, for better or worse, I don't really want to debate that necessarily because I think like there's a lot of flop that maybe comes from those sites as far as like research side and bad information. They'd be better off pulling from like DeFi Llama or whatnot. Not, but like the fact of the matter is like AI is just pulling from those websites. And so, yeah, if you can basically own that and then just like push your shit through that and it just pops up in every deep research, then yeah, that's pretty big.
So you're telling me those candies I've been collecting are worth nothing?
Dude, people were telling me to collect those when I started. I'm like, this is bullshit. So I never collected. Imagine they just announced like, nah, we're actually not getting bought. We're gonna launch a token. Those candies you've been collecting for 5 years, bro, you're gonna be rich.
So I think we've burnt over an hour, and I think if you're listening to this even like after the fact, or you're listening live, you're probably wondering like what happened in the news aggregation thing. Well, we've decided that it bores us, and we're only going to talk about stuff if we want like that we want to riff on, essentially. So we'll probably get back to that, but only when there's something worth talking about, like why Berachain is up 40% in the last 24 hours, or anything else that's like coming across the time.
We could just like say crime.
Yeah, we could just say crime. Yeah, allegedly.
Crime line.
All that
Crime line.
But what have you got going on, LTR? What else is like beyond just seemingly crushing everything you turn your attention to? What you're writing at the minute? What you're thinking about? Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. I think I'm going to start like a big securitization piece. As like, I think we're seeing a lot of convergence with like Canton and Securitize like really ramping up and IPO and like stuff like that. And it's like maybe more boring stuff, but I think it's stuff that if you are privy to, like if you bought Canton on the stock market or whatever, you would have made like a 2-3x, I think, from the start, like CC. I think the ticker is, and like a lot of people didn't know about that. Like it was just so under the radar and it was pretty good returns. And so I think stuff like that, if you are just like even base level knowledgeable on it, you'll be so far ahead of people as we move into 2026, where I just think convergence happens even more and more with M&A and whatnot. And so
yeah,
that's kind of all I'm looking at right now. I'm looking on chain. Obviously, I'm still a degen. There's been a lot of fun coins around like the AI stuff. So if we do get an AI round too, fingers crossed, that'll be pretty fun. Otherwise, though, been pretty boring.
Yeah, I like to think, in light of the optimism that we've been discussing on this call, I do think we'll see it run again, whether it's AI, memes.
It's already slowly starting to happen.
Yeah, it's slowly starting to happen. I think that like what we're seeing here, even with like Claude and the way the conversation's going in narrative, like that tends to be what I'll use as a signal for this kind of thing. Like conversation starts first, flutters down, someone will have a go at something will pop that you have absolutely no idea like what the fuck it is or why it's popping, and then before you know it, we're like full blown back into the instead of a season. I don't even know what the precursor to that is because it could be anything. Maybe AI 2.0 is right. Maybe we see another GOAT run it back, but
oh god, yeah,
I don't know.
2.0.
I need something to make me feel alive again. It's been months.
I just feel like we have no more greater fools. Like I think a lot of this stuff just tops out pretty low, unless it is like super low float, like White Whale or whatever, and it's just basically pumped up. It reminds like White Whale reminds me of like Useless with like the bonk stuff, just like some entity is just like pushing it up.
Those charts have got so many hallmarks up in there that it's like.
Yeah, but also like the volume's so low. Like it was doing like it was like 200 mil market cap and it did like 1.5 mil volume a day, which is like pretty low. And so I'm not saying like if you hit that, like good shit. I don't really like it's not a bad thing necessarily. Like if coins run, that's good. We just need something that runs that like a lot of people are in on, I think. So we'll see.
You need a random Pepe to start it all off again.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
That was wild. Like we really took that for granted, man. Like that type of shit. Like just how easy that went up. Or how long it stayed up too, even now. Like GOAT and stuff is basically like full burged and whatnot. And they sure went high, but then they just fell just as fast. But like stuff like that just stayed around, man.
But it's I mean, one thing has influenced the other, hasn't it? Because when that happened, like every leg up, I was like, surely this is the last one. Surely another. And then like that kind of had a negative influence on the way I traded pretty much everything else over the past like year or so. I don't know.
Good.
that's well over an hour. Thank you, LTR.
Yeah, dude. Anytime.
We
My
could,
favorite Brits.
Yeah, I could easily keep this going as well, but
Good.
I'm kind of trying to be realistic about how many people listen for this length of time. So
No, everyone listens to me talk. I think
yeah,
they fall asleep
you're
to
out-
my voice. I'm like an ASMR
you're out there
star.
on your own. You got a segment on Calm as well. That's what I've heard. So good luck on that. Nice one.
All right.
Link is in the description for Yeet if you want to sign up over there. Thanks to the guys for that. Thanks to you, Grant. Thanks to you, LTR. See you tomorrow on Saturday. Goodbye.
Bye.